This happened 2 hours ago, and I need you to hear this before anyone else covers it. Senators working on the Clarity Act just signaled that the stablecoin compromise could restart the entire bill, and if this moves forwards, Ripple is going to be forced to make the single biggest decision in XRP history. Everybody is talking about the 20% rule. Everybody is worried about what Ripple does with 34 billion XRP in escrow, but here is what nobody on YouTube is actually telling you. Not every option is equal. Some of these moves could be catastrophic, but one of them, one specific path, could trigger the kind of supply shock that fundamentally reprices XRP. And today I am going to rank every single option Ripple has from worst to best for you as a holder, so that when Ripple makes its announcement, you already know exactly what it means for your bag. Let me set the stage with what is actually happening right now, because the data today is wild. XRP is trading at approximately $1.54 as I am recording this, up about 5% in the last 24 hours. But here is where it gets interesting. Whale wallets holding between 100 million and 1 billion XRP just added another 1.3 billion tokens in a 48-hour window earlier this month, according to Sentiment data. At the same time, $738 million worth of XRP left centralized exchanges in a single day on March 10th. That is one of the largest net outflow events of 2026. Whales are accumulating aggressively while pulling XRP off exchanges. They are not preparing to sell, they are preparing for something. Now here is the context you need. The Clarity Act says that if any single entity or group of related entities controls 20% or more of a token's total supply, that blockchain does not qualify as a mature system. It stays in regulatory limbo. It does not get commodity status. Ripple currently controls approximately 34.4 billion XRP in escrow plus roughly 4.8 billion in operational wallets. That is nearly 40% of the total 100 billion supply. They need to cut that almost in half. And here is what the video everybody watched this week got wrong. They listed the options like a menu where everything is equally likely and equally uncertain. That is not true. The data tells us which options are realistic, which ones are dangerous, and which one could be a game changer. So let me walk you through all 5 ranked from worst to best for XRP holders. Option 5, the worst case scenario, accelerated open market sales. If Ripple sold aggressively into the open market or sold escrow wallets to entities that then dumped on the open market, this would be devastating. We are talking about potentially 15 to 18 billion XRP hitting exchanges over a compressed timeline. The current weekly ETF inflow is only about $19 million. The math does not work. Supply would overwhelm demand by orders of magnitude. If you see headlines about Ripple accelerating escrow sales without lockup agreements, that is your signal to be concerned. I give this option a less than 5% chance of happening because Ripple knows it would destroy their own balance sheet value. Their private valuation just hit $50 billion, largely because of their XRP holdings. They are not going to torch that. Option 4, a token burn. This is the one the community loves to talk about. Paul Barron covered it. There is a clip floating around where a Grayscale executive basically said reducing XRP's future inflation would have a positive price effect. And look, mathematically they are right. If Ripple burned 15 billion XRP, total supply drops, their percentage drops, and scarcity increases. But David Schwartz himself pushed back on this. He pointed to Stellar in 2019 when they burned half the supply and the token price barely moved. More importantly, burning XRP means Ripple is destroying balance sheet value and future optionality with zero guarantee of a price response. I think there is maybe a 10% chance Ripple does a partial burn as part of a broader strategy, but a massive burn on its own is unlikely. If this analysis is making you think differently about your XRP position, hit that like button because the algorithm needs to see that this kind of deep content matters more than hype. Option 3, developer grants and ecosystem airdrops. This is the middle of the road option. Ripple distributes XRP to developers, ecosystem funds, and community programs where Ripple retains no veto, no recall rights, and no voting control over those tokens. This genuinely reduces insider ownership without direct sell pressure. The problem the source video correctly identified is that airdropping to the largest holders essentially gives XRP back to insiders. But a well-designed program targeting smaller holders and builders could work. I give this about a 20% chance of being a major component of whatever Ripple announces. It is good for the ecosystem, but it does not move the price needle dramatically on its own. Now here is where it gets exciting. Option 2. Transferring XRP to genuinely independent institutional vehicles. This means ETFs, independent custodial banks, or sovereign entities that Ripple has absolutely no control over. And this is where the current data gets really interesting. 7 spot XRP ETFs already exist with combined assets under management of approximately $1.44 billion. Goldman Sachs alone holds $153.8 million in XRP ETF positions. Since launch, these ETFs have seen only 9 days of net outflows. The institutional base is buying the dip, even as XRP dropped 27% this year. Now imagine Ripple structured a deal where it transferred billions of XRP into independently managed institutional vehicles with multi-year lockup agreements. Those tokens leave Ripple's beneficial ownership count. They enter institutional hands that are contractually prevented from selling for 3 to 5 years. Supply gets removed from Ripple's control and from the circulating market simultaneously. That is not a dump. That is a supply shock in slow motion. I give this a 35 to 40% chance because it aligns with everything Ripple has been building. The Hidden Road acquisition, the Deutsche Bank integration, RLUSD hitting $1.56 billion in market cap, with BlackRock using it as a redemption mechanism. Ripple has spent years building the institutional relationships that make this kind of transfer possible. And now the number one option, the one I think is most likely and most bullish, a combination strategy. Ripple does not pick one path. They announce a comprehensive restructuring that combines institutional transfers, ecosystem grants, governance changes, and possibly a small strategic burn. Think of it like this. They transfer 10 billion XRP to a consortium of independent institutional custodians with 5-year lockups. They distribute 3 billion through ecosystem development programs. They implement governance changes that remove their ability to unilaterally control consensus, and they maybe burn 2 to 3 billion as a goodwill gesture to the community. That gets them below 20% while creating the most positive market narrative possible. Subscribe if you want XRP analysis that actually gives you a plan and not just hype, because what I am about to tell you is the part that changes everything about the timeline. The Clarity Act does not flip a switch overnight. Once signed into law, regulators get several months to write detailed rules. Then there is a provisional window of roughly 1 year where projects can keep operating while they register and position themselves. So Ripple would have approximately 12 to 18 months after the bill passes to execute this restructuring. That is plenty of time to do it strategically without crashing the market. Now let me address the elephant in the room. Polymarket currently puts the odds of the Clarity Act being signed into law in 2026 at 61%. That is down from 72% earlier this month after Trump's endorsement, but still well above 50-50. The stablecoin yield compromise that Senators also Brooks and Tillis are working on is the key that unlocks everything. If they resolve that debate, the Senate Banking Committee can schedule a markup. Brad Garlinghouse himself said he thinks there is a 90% chance Clarity gets passed. Even if he is being optimistic, the legislative momentum is real. But here is the honest credibility moment. I could be wrong about the timeline. The Save America Act that Trump posted about on March 8th has frozen the Senate's legislative queue. Every bill requiring floor time is now waiting behind a voting reform package. That is a real headwind. and there are still unresolved fights over DeFi provisions and ethics rules around government officials profiting from crypto. This is not financial advice, and I am sharing what I am personally looking at, but the uncertainty is real. What I am not uncertain about is this. The disconnect between institutional catalysts and XRP's price is the single most important dynamic in this market right now. RLUSD is approaching $2 billion in market cap. Deutsche Bank integrated Ripple's payment infrastructure. XRPL daily transactions tripled to 3 million. ETF inflows total 1.4 billion since launch. Goldman Sachs is the largest known institutional holder, and yet XRP is still down 40% in 2026. Every single partnership announcement this year has been followed by a price drop. That makes no sense unless you understand that the market is waiting for one thing: regulatory clarity. The Clarity Act is not just about rules. It is about unlocking the institutional capital that is sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the green light. When that clarity arrives and Ripple announces its restructuring plan, the holders who understood the framework will be positioned. The ones who panicked and sold will be watching from the outside. Comment below which of these 5 options you think Ripple will choose. I read every single comment, and I want to see where the community stands on this because your analysis might catch something I missed. Here is what I am watching this week. The Senate Banking Committee is eyeing a mid to late March markup window for a second attempt at advancing the bill. If that happens, Polymarket odds could spike back above 70% overnight. RLUSD market cap is tracking toward $2 billion, and whale accumulation just turned positive on a 30-day moving average for the first time since November 2025. Those 3 data points together tell me something is building beneath the surface. The question is not if clarity comes, it is when. And when it does, the 20% rule that everyone is afraid of might turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to XRP holders. Share this with one XRP holder who has been panicking about the Clarity Act because they need to see the full picture, not just the fear. If you want data first XRP coverage that you will not find on any other channel, subscribe and tap that notification bell because the next few weeks could change everything. I will see you in the next one.